Welcome into WeAreSC. Welcome to Four Downs. This is Erik McKinney, joined by Greg Katz. Greg, we're previewing USC UCLA at the Coliseum Saturday afternoon, 12:30 kick. Beginning of the year, I don't know if we had this pegged as a game between two four-loss teams, both of them trying to stop a two-game losing streak at this point of the season. It's still going to mean something. It's still going to mean something for the fans in the stands, for the coaches, for the players. It's not going to mean anything in terms of national rankings or probably the Pac-12 championship game, certainly. But whenever these two get on the field, wearing those uniforms, seeing the kind of crosstown rivalry here, it's always a fun one. Let's jump into first down, and that's the USC offense. The way we talk about it, what are you looking for? Kind of biggest thing for you when USC's offense is on the field against that UCLA defense?
Well, for me, it's going to be definitely the USC offensive line against a really good UCLA defensive front seven. I mean, that in a nutshell might be the big neutralizer for USC. I think UCLA's new defensive coordinator, Danton, is doing a great job, Lynn. I'm interested to see how they defense Caleb Williams. I see a pattern on how teams are waiting for him to reverse pivot, and they're saying reverse pivot right into one of our players. So we'll see if the USC offensive line can root out some of the defensive line of UCLA. I think what's intriguing to me is you got a probable first-round draft pick for UCLA in Liatu Leitu, and joining him along that line is Jay Toia, who, of course, for USC fans, remember how he showed up for a spring out of high school and then left us to go to UCLA. So that's kind of an intriguing aspect of it. But I think that's where the game will be won or perhaps even lost.
Yeah, I think that's huge. The Pac-12 sends out kind of preview notes and stats and stuff ahead of games. There's one that they send out that lists all of the various teams in the conference, both their offense and defense, and rankings within the conference and within FBS. For the defensive ones, there's 15 categories that they send out, right? Points per game, yards per game, turnovers, sacks, that kind of stuff. UCLA is first, second, or third in the conference in 13 of those 15 categories. I mean, it's a good defense. And when you look at it, they didn't play Oregon. They didn't play Washington. They haven't played USC. You look at their non-conference schedule, which was, I think St. John Bosco may have played a more difficult non-conference schedule this year. That being said, they did well against Utah when USC didn't. They've done well when they've been on the field, and it's that defensive front, like you mentioned, that is really good. For me, when I am watching the USC offense, I think it's going to be Caleb Williams, and kind of, can he have, there hasn't been a decision made. He says that he'll figure it out kind of later, whether he's going to go, whether he's going to play in a bowl game. I'm certainly going into this game figuring this is the last time we're seeing Caleb Williams in a USC uniform. That feels like the safe bet based on kind of trajectory of the season, what bowl game they could be in, where he's projected to go in the draft. I think it would be surprising if he didn't. So for me, it's kind of that, again, with really nothing on the line, what kind of magic does he have in this one? And can that line protect him? Can he get enough time to operate and make some big plays? Had a big game against UCLA last year. Can he do it again this year? So it's not a one-man show by any means, but in this case, in this situation, looking for some big things from Caleb Williams on Saturday.
Yeah, I think, Erik, I think we all keep waiting for Caleb to have his quote best game of the year. And let's remember last year, no matter how good those statistics were against UCLA, and they were good, it came down to an interception by Corey Foreman so late in the game that iced it. So I would suspect Caleb should be on top of his game if they're going to win this one.
And it'll be interesting too. Teams have had success dropping back, right? When against the pass, when they rush three and kind of sit back and make him pick them apart. UCLA's strength is up front and getting to the quarterback. So what decision do they have in, do we just go all out and leave defensive backs back there to try to make plays? Or do they try to sit back like some of these other teams have done and make it tough for Caleb Williams that way? Now, worst case scenario, right, is you rush 3 or 4 and you still get pressure because the USC offensive line can't handle it. And we've seen that group up there, or specific players up there, lose quickly one-on-one battles there and give up pressure on plays where you just, based on who rushed and what it looked like, you just can't give up pressure on that stuff. So that's definitely going to be something to watch when Caleb Williams and that USC offense are out there. Let's flip second down and we'll flip field here and go USC defense. What's kind of key for you? What are you watching when that USC defense is on the field? Second week, right, under the new co-defensive coordinators, Brian Odom and Sean Nua.
Well, it's interesting because on Thursday, Lincoln Riley expected a giant leap this week, and he said it. I didn't, but he believes that, and we all hope that he's true if you're a USC fan. But I think UCLA can run the ball. They've never had a problem running the ball. I don't think they'll have a problem running the ball, but I think it'll be more challenged with the new regime, and especially with basically 2 weeks of new leadership. In fact, I was intrigued because Lincoln Riley did mention we have, we've changed the schemes at some level. Now, how much that really is going to show in this game, who knows? I think one of the big battles is going to be who quarterbacks UCLA, how effective they are against the USC secondary. As we all know, USC secondary isn't going to bring back memories of the 72 Trojans. And that's going to be a real challenge because I think we could all admit against Oregon, USC secondary, the tackling is just horrendous. I didn't really feel that there was anybody of the 4 across that started the game for SC who were people that I could depend on not missing a tackle. I mean, it was just like, it happened so fast. We'll see how Chip Kelly decides to attack the USC corners. And I think at this point, hey, attack the safeties as well. That makes it compounds the problem because I don't think they're playing particularly well at all either.
Yeah, first thing for me, who's taking snaps for UCLA, right? Who do they have going out? This is it's not quite like Arizona State where they were down to their third string quarterback, but you knew it was him. I think there's still kind of some who's going to be quarterback for UCLA. I don't know if it changes the passing attack all that much. It's not like, are they going to have, a walk-on or Michael Penix out there or Caleb Williams? So in that way, I think that it becomes stop the run again, just like Oregon, just like against Oregon. This is a UCLA team averaging 202 yards per game on the ground. That's first in the Pac-12. Chip Kelly has always been able to run the ball. Whoever is back there, whoever is taking snaps, whoever they're handing off to, there's a run game component that is tricky in a Chip Kelly offense. Can USC stay tough enough and disciplined enough to keep up with all the wrinkles plus the power and all of that you get with a couple big, tough running backs for UCLA? That's going to be a challenge. I think one of the interesting things this week that Shane Lee talked about, and you mentioned Lincoln Riley talking about kind of some tweaks defensively. Shane Lee was as open as anyone's going to be in terms of scheme and all of that stuff in the aftermath of the coaching change. But both he and Mason Cobb a little bit talked about that clearly there being kind of new focus, new plans, new tweaks to where they feel it seems like they feel much more comfortable in the run game. Shane Lee talked about kind of there being more support in that second level so that if something gets missed, it doesn't pop for a big gain. He talked about guys being able to play a little bit, he called it more carefree, which is what it always felt like, right? It always felt like there was so much pressure. Make this play or this is a 75-yard touchdown run every single time anyone went for a tackle. So that seemed shored up against Oregon. And it feels a little bit crazy to praise the USC defense against Oregon, which had two 70+ yard touchdowns in its first 5 plays and two just terrible, right, defensive plays overall. But you look at what that Oregon running game was doing coming in. They didn't have a 20-yard rush. They got loose for a 19-yard touchdown, but then only a handful, I think 3 other runs that went for plus 10 yards. And again, you have to couch it a little bit. We're talking about a USC defense that has just been crushed on the ground. So 4 runs of more than 10 yards, none more than 20 against an Oregon offense. I think you feel okay against the run coming into even a talented UCLA team. So that's it for me. If UCLA has to throw the ball all game and they throw for 450 yards, okay, that's what happened. They can't run for 450 yards in this one. And I think if you're USC, you have to, the defensive coordinator's gone. A bunch of these players are, with the turnover now, with being able to go pro or transfer portal or whatever it is, the continuity is not always there. But if you're USC, you have to set a little bit of a tone going into the offseason, I think, here. And stopping the run is a big deal in this one against UCLA. All right, let's go to third down. Third down, as always, brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the simplest form of real money daily fantasy sports. Just pits you against the numbers, whether you're a fantasy sports nut or a casual fan looking to add some excitement to the games. Prize Picks is the perfect game for you. Go to prizepicks.com or download the app. Enter promo code SC. Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. You pick 2 to 6 players. You can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. Greg, let's take a look here. I took a couple of offensive players in this one. So we went, sorry, let's pull it up here. Here we go. We went with TJ Harden's up there. Again, we just talked about the UCLA running game and what we sort of think USC needs to do against it. So TJ Harden, part of that kind of duo in the backfield with Carson Steele, less than 53.5 rushing yards. And then I talked about Caleb Williams, more than 293.5 passing yards. So looking at a 300-yard game for Caleb Williams through the air. And I think that UCLA pass rush is going to have something to do with that. And it'll be interesting to see, can he get the ball out quickly, and can USC's receivers do something with it, on quick passes and pick up yards after catch. That's such a key, I think, for the USC offense. What do you see there and like on either of those?
I'm going to go with more on Harden.
You would have gone with more on any UCLA runner at any number, though, right?
The statistics speak for itself. I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid. The only thing is just because Harden gets over 53 yards, we're not talking about the other guy too. It's going to be a combination of how much they can run for. But against SC, they've been known for giving up big plays. So if Harden actually ripped off a 45-yard run, he's almost home early. I think Caleb, his statistics should be more. But here's the deal. I don't know how many times a pass play will be called and he'll end up running the ball. And so I look at him that he may run the ball more this time than he's run it the entire season. Now, he has been running the ball more when the game's really in the second half of the season, when SC was in line to try to, get into the championship game for the Pac-12. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But I think, the good thing about it, and I think you set the table kind of, nicely at the beginning of the program, USC and UCLA, as Lincoln Riley mentioned on Thursday, this is unique. Two schools, probably 8 miles apart, give or take. And, it's not like, okay, we lose to Oregon, they go back up to Eugene, we won't see them again. But when you live in LA, it is a real rivalry, and it goes on all year. All year. I mean, it's the bragging. The thing that's beautiful about this rivalry, not to get off topic too much, but people that don't even care about football, who don't even care about SC, UCLA, because it's SC and UCLA playing each other, they'll have an opinion. And I think that Caleb Williams and UCLA as well understand what it means to win or lose in this game. Now, Caleb's never lost, but the point is if he could go through his career, if this is going to be his last game, he will be able to say, I never lost to UCLA, which is a big deal if you live in this area and for your legacy. So I think he's going to throw for more.
All right, let's go to fourth down. Fourth down is going to be your number, your statistic. What number do you feel is important or maybe jumps out to you when looking at this game?
Boy, I've juggled this one back and forth, up and down, sideways. I think I'm going to go, and I'm not real confident in this, but I think it could happen. So I'm going to go with this, the number 200. SC cannot allow UCLA to get over 200 yards passing, and they cannot give up over 200 yards running. If they do, that means there's over 400 yards of offense, and UCLA is capable. Chip Kelly is capable of designing ways to approach those levels. So this is a real test, of course, of USC defense. It's really going to get down to, can they hold them under 200 in each of those categories? So we'll find out on Saturday afternoon. And don't forget the possibility of wet weather. That's also a possibility.
Yeah.
So that could carve into some of this.
No, you're right. I mean, they can't let a UCLA offense that has just could get nothing going. I mean, Arizona State, their last two games could get nothing going. I think I saw a stat that combined there was like the fewest points for a Chip Kelly or a UCLA team at all in back-to-back games since like 2008. So this offense is not humming coming into this one, and the quarterback injuries clearly playing a part there. But USC cannot let them get going both ways on the ground and through the air. Have to shut something down, and I think it's got to start with the run, because UCLA certainly is going to want to run. I'm going to say my number is 3 in this, and maybe it's low, maybe it should be 4, but that's sacks for me. This is a UCLA team that is 5th in the country in sacking the quarterback, but also gives up a ton of sacks. 116th in sacks allowed per game. This is a USC team that gives up a ton of sacks and has not gotten virtually any the last few weeks. And they've talked about Michael Penix and Bo Nix are the two quarterbacks that you just went against. They do not get sacked. Washington and Oregon, those offenses get the ball out fast. Those quarterbacks are incredible at getting the ball out quickly. UCLA has not been able to do that. That USC defensive front has to make life tougher on the UCLA quarterbacks than they did against Michael Penix and against Bo Nix. That's key. The other side, again, 3 sacks. That's about what UCLA averages, maybe a little bit more per game, and USC has given up at least 3 sacks going back to any game pretty much that matters. I mean, you're at a pretty significant streak of at least 3 sacks allowed for the USC offense. And what we've seen really is, as Caleb Williams is trying to make plays through sacks, that ball gets popped out. And so that then leads to turnovers, but it starts from either that quick pressure or Caleb holding the ball a little bit and pressure eventually getting there. Keeping him clean, I think, is going to be big, just because the sacks have so clearly and directly led to kind of fumbles and ball control issue. Again, against the UCLA team that's going to want to grind it out and hold the ball and run it. Can't give them short fields in this one to work with. So I think that's going to be key. Keeping those quarterbacks upright on both sides, who can get to it more, has a huge advantage in this one.
I think one thing that we do have to consider, if you look at Arizona State, if you look at Arizona, and you look at teams that didn't have their quarterback ready to go, it seems like everybody's quarterback turns into a productive player against the USC defense. And, you know, I'm sure that the name Colin Sheely is not a big name in the Los Angeles area for USC fans to know. Ethan Garbers went to Corona Del Mar High School. He's a good quarterback, not a great quarterback, but a good quarterback. Dante Moore has not probably had the season for a 5-star quarterback out of Michigan that maybe they projected. However, it seems no matter who plays quarterback, they produce. So, you know, SC fans are probably pulling their hair out going, we don't need another Norman Dow. We don't need another John Barnes. We don't need another fill in the blank. And he becomes the hero of the game and never heard from again, but the damage is done. So that's a wild card for me.
Yeah. And this is that game where that kind of stuff can pop up, right? I mean, Corey Foreman, it doesn't feel like is going to have a huge vault of tons of plays at USC, but that one last year was big, and winning that game, you can make those plays in this kind of game and be remembered for a while. So that USC defense, yes, let's not make any UCLA heroes in this one. Saturday afternoon, again, that's a 12:30 kick at the Coliseum. We will be there. Hopefully USC fans can get to announced as a sellout. We'll see how many people show up, and we'll see what the weather does. Hopefully that rain kind of comes early and then stays off during the game. But that's our look at this edition of that crosstown rivalry between USC and UCLA. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching 4 Downs. Thanks for watching WeAreSC.